Hello everyone, good to see ya. We are in the heart of spooky season, with Halloween just around the corner. So I wanted to make today's video about the supernatural. Kinda. So, here's the thing. I don't actually believe in the paranormal, but I am a strong believer in just because you can't explain it, doesn't mean it is unexplainable. But, in the spirit of Halloween, we will suspend that disbelief as I share stories of strange things in my life I have never been able to explain. So, a short backstory. My childhood home was purchased by my parents after both previous residents kicked the bucket. I know one was sick. I can't remember what claimed the other, but point is, they are no longer of this world. My bedroom was the only one with access to the attic through a small door in the closet, and none of us have ever actually been up there. But a lot of the strange things in my life relate to that closet. The doors to it were thick and heavy sliding doors, and sometimes at night, they'd open just a crack, almost like something is peeking out at you. It bugged me so much as a kid that, when we removed the doors to paint the room, we never put them back on. In my mind, no doors meant no more opening. The problem now was that the closet seemingly didn't like when I took things out of it. I rarely touched anything in the closet because it was spooky to little Noah. But when I did, weird shit would happen that night. I'd feel stuff tug at my blankets, or stacks of books and game cases on my tables would get knocked over. And there was a cover over my ceiling light, directly above my bed, that one time straight up fell off and scared the shit out of me. It would have hurt like hell if it actually landed on me too. That thing was heavy. But the weirdest one, and it's so weird because it happened during a regular evening. All the lights were on, I was playing video games, whole house was awake. Nothing scary going on to already get me in the mindset to be spooked, when I heard something shift on my wall. So, I looked at an old piece of a Halloween costume I had lazily taped to my wall because, full honesty, I was a messy kid, and didn't care to find an actual spot for it to fit. I figured the tape was giving out and it was just shifting before falling. No big deal. But it didn't fall. Not at first. It began bouncing up and down, then suddenly got ripped off to the ground, like, forcefully. It was a lot faster and harsher than if gravity got it. Even if that part was gravity, it still doesn't explain how it started bouncing. So, needless to say, it was a good while before I ever took something out of that closet again. There was also an old toy in there that made a laser blasting sound. The battery should have been dead, and during the day it never made a peep. But for over a decade, late at night when I was trying to sleep, it would randomly go off on its own. So, that was the closet. Next I want to share a more wholesome one. One that I lovingly call the Muffin Ghost. No, not the muffin button kind of muffin. Muffin was the name of my sister's cat, but more importantly, the mother of Todd and Bubbles, my now 13-year-old cats. About a year after they were born, Muffin unfortunately passed away. my family situation was, complicated, and my sister lived with my dad, while I lived with my mother at that point in time. So, Muffin lived with them, and Hot and Bubbles had been entrusted to me. I'll touch more on why in a future video. Point is, I had already been raising Todd and Bubbles when their mother passed. They have both been raised as outside cats, never needed a litter box, always did their business outside. After Muffin was gone, sometimes I'd get distracted, gaming or watching videos or whatever, and I'd feel a cat jump on my bed. Expecting it to be Bubbles, I'd go to pet it and see a shadowy silhouette of a cat quickly vanish as it moved towards me. I'd instantly be reminded that I left both cats outside. This would only happen on really rainy or cold or stormy days. So to me it felt like Muffin was telling me to get off my ass and let her kids inside. Kinda like she was still looking after them and she knew it was my job to take care of them now. So it was always a really sweet thought. By now, you are probably picking up on the fact that there was a large chunk of my life where I strongly believed in the paranormal. Losing that belief was just a part of growing up for me, but what strengthened that belief as a child is kind of interesting. While most of my family was raised somewhat Christian, I had one black sheep aunt who was a pagan and practiced witchcraft. She first taught me how to use pendulums and about my birthstone and stuff like that. Eventually I even made my own pendulum using my birthstone. And, of course, she also taught me smudging and cleansing and to use it before sessions and all that. The pendulum seemed to work and give good answers, so I became fascinated with other magical things, like crystals and spells. My aunt even claimed that her husband, who she is still married to and in love with to this day, and who was her high school sweetheart, she had cast a love spell on him, so they would be together. The funny part is that my dad always hated that stuff, because he thought it invited entities into our house. He still to this day believes in the paranormal, and has had the most paranormal experiences in our family by far. Personally, I think it is because he believes in it that he has had more experiences. Like, it's just easier for him to jump to that conclusion. But who knows? Maybe I'm wrong and I did bring in the ghosties. If I did, sorry, Dad. As an adult, I believe that stuff isn't real. But sometimes, I kinda go back to it just to trick myself into feeling a little bit of hope when things are going really wrong for me. The magic I had practiced as a kid was healing magic. It always felt like that was what I was meant to do. And even to this day, my mother thinks I was able to heal things. Like, whenever she'd get a bad headache or migraine, she'd make me place my hand on her forehead and claims they'd go away. I myself have always healed very fast. Even when I get stitches and stuff, the wounds would close up in a couple days, when I was told to give it a couple weeks. The times I used it most desperately, though, was on animals. I volunteered at a local animal shelter, and we got one cat, very sweet boy named Bob. He was in extremely rough condition when we got him. Frostbitten, looked like he had been attacked by something. Half his face was covered by a big, gnarly wound. While I was meant to spend my time with all the cats equally, I admit I gave a lot more of my time to him. He loved to cuddle, and he'd lay in my lap, or hold my hand and purr, and I'd cast a little healing spell on him. The employees at the shelter said he recovered shockingly fast, and when the day was set for him to be adopted, they told me to go spend some time with him because they knew how much I loved him, and that I'd want to say goodbye before he went to his new family. I admittedly cried a bit as I held him for the last time. I hope he's still happy and living his best life with his new family, even now. Another time was when my brother's dog was diagnosed with cancer, and the vets originally believed it was an extremely aggressive form of cancer. I hugged her and cast healing spells on her, and they took some samples from her lumps. When they came back, it turned out the cancer was much less aggressive than predicted and hadn't spread, and they were able to safely remove it all through surgery. She is still alive and happy today, if not a bit fat from us spoiling her so much after. And yes, before I get the comments, I'm well aware that witchcraft stuff is seen as very feminine, and I'm going to be made fun of pretty hard for it. I'm also well aware magic isn't real, and all that stuff is likely coincidence. But when you're depressed and desperate, it's nice to be able to find something, just anything, to give you that spark of hope. And it doesn't hurt anyone, so I don't see a problem with indulging the imagination a little bit. To everyone watching, let people be happy. Don't make fun of the people who just want something to believe in and to give them hope, or add a little more magic and fun to their lives. It's harmless and it makes them happy. Let people enjoy their beliefs and spread some positivity. I'll leave the last one as a funny story of me being a stupid kid and hurting myself by accident. So, my brother convinced me that the park near our house was haunted and we should go ghost hunting. So, in our infinite wisdom as small children, we took some hot dog roasting sticks and charged out to find the ghost, as if those would be our weapon to defend ourselves. He liked to prank me and mess with me. So, at one point, he pretended to see something and shouted for us to run, and we were running home full speed when I accidentally stabbed myself up the nose with my poker. It would have been really, really bad if it got me in the eye, so I'm pretty lucky it didn't. Though, maybe it went up and got my brain, and that's why I'm so stupid now. I'm joking about the brain part, but it did get me really, really good. And my god, I was bleeding profusely. I remember sitting on the bathroom sink counter, going through almost a roll of toilet paper trying to stop the bleeding while my brother was freaking out. That ended up being so much scarier for everyone than the potential ghost was. Looking back on it now, at least I can laugh. And hey, it wouldn't be spooky season without a little bit of gore, am I right? Anyway, those are some of my experiences with the supernatural, or rather, odd things I can't explain, and an intimate encounter with a marshmallow roasting stick, or hot dog, marshmallow, we used it for both, doesn't matter. So, despite the first story being a bit spooky, and the last one lacking any actual paranormal things, I'd say that my overall experience with the unexplained has been pretty positive and wholesome. So, maybe ghosts are just friends you haven't met yet. I'll end the video here before it gets too long. maybe if I can get my dad's permission to use his stories, I'll make a follow-up video later on, because his are a lot scarier. But since he is very superstitious, I'd feel bad throwing them out there without asking him first. For now, I hope you all have a fantastic day, full of magic and mystery. Please make good choices, and I'll see you all in the next one. Bye-bye.